Right, hello. I'm Carrie from Rose and Hen, and this is Rachel from Boleyn Art Jewellery. And so we're going to do a little interview for the Etsy Made Local online fair, which is a virtual fair. So hopefully you've all made your way here to the stage, and we're now going to have a little conversation about our businesses. So Rachel, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to become a jeweller.
Okay. Well, I've always been sort of quite artistic. So when I was a kid, I used to do a lot of drawing and a lot of painting. And I always kind of had a feeling, I would love to make my living kind of doing something creative. And then went to university, did English, and then after I left university, I got a job, and then just the dream never happened. So I've been sort of doing a relatively standard administrative job at the university for quite a long time now. And inside there was this kind of frustrated artist wanting to come out. And last year I kind of by fluke got into jewellery making. So I'd done a painting for the first time in a really, really long time. Decided I should frame it because I had all the kit to do picture framing, and then got quite into the picture framing thing. Did quite a lot, and thought, well, what am I going to do with all this leftover glass from the picture framing? And thought to myself, I wonder if there's something I can do with it. I didn't want to throw it away. I wanted to make something from it. So I started sort of thinking, well, I wonder if I can make jewellery out of it, and did a little bit of research, and discovered that you can use microwave kilns in a microwave. And they're quite small. I have one here, in fact. So kind of, small.
Little, that's tiny, isn't it?
So cute. It's really cute. So you put your stuff on the little, it's hard to see actually, but you put your stuff on there. And
on the plinth.
And you pop it on, put it in the microwave, and sort of in about, I don't know, it depends on the size of the thing, 10 to 15 minutes, you have an amazing piece of fused glass. And it's wonderful. So when I discovered that this thing existed, thought I will order one of those. This is one of these kind of, I can't sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll order it from eBay or Amazon or wherever I happen to be looking. And they're really affordable. So they're a really great way, if anyone's thinking, I'd like to try fused glass, they're a really great way of getting into it because they're really affordable. I think, depending on the size of them, between £30 and £40. So it's not a massive outlay. You can kind of just get going really quickly. So I did that, basically, long story short, to try and use up some of the waste glass from my picture framing. Very quickly discovered that there's such a thing as a compatibility issue with glass. So picture framing glass and other coloured glass doesn't necessarily work. So rather than using all this free glass, I started spending quite a lot of money on really lovely glass designed for fusing and got really addicted to it. So I'm still planning on doing something with the float glass at some point. But I just really got hooked. So it all happened a bit quickly, really. I just kind of, towards the end of last summer, sort of early autumn, started experimenting. And I've just been kind of obsessed with it ever since, really. And I kind of, if a day goes by where I haven't put something in my kiln, I get a bit anxious because it's like, I need to melt some glass. It's so satisfying. So like I say, I kind of got into it a little bit by accident. It's not what I kind of intended. I always thought, I'll probably do painting or picture framing, and that will be my kind of creative outlet. And then suddenly it's like, wow, this whole world of jewellery making has just opened up to me, and I absolutely love it. So I can't kind of imagine my life without making it now. It's such a wonderful thing. So that's kind of how I got into it in a very convoluted way.
That's really interesting. It's actually interesting to find out that you can actually start off with a basic kiln, because I've always thought that that they're really expensive things and that you have to have a really big one, having gone to see other people's kilns in ceramics and glass fusing before. So that's actually really quite good that you can start out with something that's actually quite affordable, really.
Absolutely.
And what is it about fused glass that you particularly like? I love watching people make glass, really. I mean, glass blowing, glass fusing, and those little lamp beads, they're really cool.
They are. few years ago I went to Venice, and we went to Murano and looked at lots of glass going on there, and so we went to sort of watch some glass blowing, and just kind of, I think I've always just thought, wow, it's just fascinating watching the molten glass and seeing what can be created out of it. So I'm not quite at that stage yet, obviously, but it's just a fascinating thing just to see how it starts out and how it ends up. So I think for me, the thing I do love most about it is just how you see it evolve and how you see it change. So with the microwave kiln, the amazing thing about that is you can see it as it happens, because you have to keep checking it quite regularly. That's the kind of, it's a very tactile is not the right word, because you wouldn't touch it. It's a very visual thing. With a regular kiln, you would put it in the kiln, keep your fingers crossed that the kiln fairies are going to be kind to you, and then go away for like overnight, because it takes forever to fire, and then open it up in the morning kind of all nervous, kind of thinking, oh, I hope it's worked. The microwave kiln, you kind of have to check it as you go. And especially when you're learning, because you've got to learn how your kiln behaves, and it depends on the temperature or the power of the microwave, and it depends on the size.
Yeah, because they're all different, aren't they?
And it depends on whether it's, I use quite a lot of crushed glass in moulds, so it depends if it's that form of glass or whether it's sort of sheets of glass. It all behaves differently, and you sort of, with a bit of experience, you start to learn how long you need to put it on for a particular type of thing, but it takes quite a while before you get that kind of feel for it. So when I started, I was checking it really, really regularly to see what it was doing, because you have to. If you take it too far, you kind of can ruin it. So the great thing is you put it in kind of in its unfused form. Keep checking, and you start to see there's like a little hole in the top of the kiln. You can see that when you start to see a sort of an orange glow, that means it's come up to temperature. And that's when something magical is kind of just beginning to happen. So you have to be very careful, wear gloves and safety goggles with UV protection and everything to protect your eyes, in theory. I don't always remember to do that. I'm a little bit naughty. But and then you lift the lid up, and you just kind of just lift it up a little bit and have a peek, and then pop it back on, and then put it back in for a bit longer. So you kind of see it going through this, it's not doing anything phase, but then suddenly it starts to just soften a little bit, and you start to see it's just kind of the edges are softening, and then it's starting to glow, and then as it gets further and further, depending on how far you want to take the fuse, it kind of just melts and just becomes this beautiful blob. It's just fascinating, and I think that's, I am going to get a proper kiln, but I'm a bit scared of it, because you have to kind of, it's very scientific, you have to kind of have schedules and not peak and all that, and I will miss the kind of very interactive nature, I think, of the microwave kiln. So I think I will always keep using that, especially for testing things, and maybe just for small batches, because it's amazing the results you can get with it, even though it's such a basic piece of kit. It's it's just the things that you can get out of it are just as good as what you would get out of a proper kiln.
Wow. And
I also think the other thing about it is it's just, there's so much variety of things that you can do with glass as well, because it is either the crushed glass or the powdered glass or the sheet glass. You can paint with it. You can mix the powder with a kind of a gluey medium. That means you can paint with it, and you can do so many different effects, and you can kind of do different levels of fusing to get texture. And so it's kind of like one overall craft, and then lots of little ones sort of in between. And so it's like kind of opportunities, I think, to be really creative with it. Is I think what really intrigues me, and I think I'm just going to have fun, no matter how. I don't think I'll ever run out of new things to try, because there's always going to be new techniques I can try. So yeah, it's amazing.
And where do you actually make your jewellery then? Do you make it in the kitchen, or do you and then progress into the dining room or something, or do you stay in one place?
Well, I've got a very large, currently very messy kitchen diner, which is where I do everything. So I've got a second microwave, so I don't have to use my cooking one, and I've got big kind of kitchen saver worktop things on top of my hob that I kind of do things. So it kind of means, I can't be bothered to cook because I'm going to have to clear all that away, and so I can access my hob. So I tend to just do I'll shove something in the oven. So it's not ideal. And then I've got a big kitchen table that I can sit at as well if I need to do things. And I do find I do the kind of the fusing in the kitchen. I've got a grinding machine that currently lives in the kitchen, so I can kind of adjust the edges and you smooth things and that kind of thing. And then the kind of final stages, generally you have to sand it a little bit more, so that gives you a sort of rough edge, and then you have to kind of polish it a little bit more, and then pop it back in the kiln for a final fire polish. So I tend to do that with different grades of sandpaper, and I can sit on the sofa watching telly. It's great. I can just kind of, I dip my sandpaper in a little bit of water, get my little pieces, give them a good rub, and absent-mindedly while I'm watching telly. So it's great. But I am planning to build a studio in my garden. I've ordered a log cabin and I'm incredibly excited about it, because it will just mean I can reclaim my lovely kitchen and have a kitchen again, not a workshop. And it's going to be amazing. But it is lovely to be able to work from home and to be able to kind of think, I'm just going to put the kettle on, and while I do that, I might just pop something in the kiln. And in 15 minutes, I've got a piece of jewellery, cooling down. So it's nice to have that kind of ability to just, on my lunch break from the day job, think I'll just quickly do something. So that's a real positive thing. It's just taken over my house slightly, so it'd be nice to go outside into the garden.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. It's taken over my house.
It does.
Everything is everywhere, but hey, what can you do? And when you're designing your pieces, do they form naturally, or do you have some sort of design plan in each piece?
Sorry, it's me rattling jewellery. I'm not great at the planning. I'm quite sort of what's the word? Experimental, I would say. I'm like that with cooking. I'll kind of throw everything in a pot and go, I'll just add a bit of this and a bit of that and see what happens. So I'm a little bit like that with art as well. I tend to, if I do a painting, I don't tend to plan it out that much. I just kind of think, this is what I want to do, and I kind of do it, and it sort of happens. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But a lot of what I do is quite sort of organic, so it's kind of, particularly the ones with, I'll show you a couple of things I've just got sort of lying around.
Lovely.
One of the things I really like doing at the moment is something with the two glasses that react with each other. I don't know how well you can see that actually. So this is a French vanilla with turquoise and then French vanilla on the top, and that is literally just a strip of the French vanilla, a slightly smaller strip of the turquoise, and some just little broken up bits of the vanilla on top. So there's not a massive amount of thought gone into that as a design, and it's kind of, it does what it wants to do. It's not going to be precise and stay in a beautiful pattern. It just kind of does what it wants to do, and that's what's really nice about it, that it kind of, you can't quite predict exactly how it's going to look, so you sort of have a rough idea. But so those kind of things are sort of, designed in a very sort of as I go kind of way, not in a thought in advance kind of way. But I'm beginning to get to a point where I'm thinking a bit more about a design, and I've got quite a lot of things that I'm not going to share just yet, because I haven't quite worked out how to do them, but I've got lots of ideas of things that I want to do that will involve a little bit more of a design. And generally speaking, it's quite, I'll see what happens.
Cool. And I checked you out on Instagram before we came on, obviously.
Yeah.
And actually, we've got so many things in common. For instance, we both love Eddie Izzard. And we both like Doctor Who.
Yay!
So, like, David Tennant is my favourite, along with Matt
good.
But obviously, you have a Doctor Who inspired pendant. So can you tell us some more about that one?
Yeah. Well, it was just because I'm a Doctor Who fan, and I've got a lot of Doctor Who things. I've got around my house. I've got mugs. I've got a teapot. I've got lots of Doctor Who clothes. Quite a nerd. And so it's quite sort of obviously Doctor Who. It's like I've got a TARDIS dress that I wore when I met two doctors at a convention thing, and I've got loads of things. But there are times when you think it would be nice to have something a bit more subtle, because they're not very subtle, these things. And I thought, well, it would be nice to have a pendant that is something that people in the know would look at and think, I see what you're referring to there. And everyone else will just think, oh, that's quite nice. But it doesn't matter that they don't know what it is. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And I looked at the current Doctor, the Lady Doctor, 13th Doctor, played by the wonderful Jodie Whittaker. And out of all the kind of current modern era Doctors, she's pretty much the only one who's got colour on her outfit, I would say. So David Tennant, he's got his brown suit or his blue suit. Christopher Eccleston, black leather jacket, dark jumper. I don't think Matt Smith was very colourful either, and Peter Capaldi had, he's got a bow tie, so I could do something with the bow tie maybe. And Peter Capaldi's got a nice sort of black jacket with a red lining. I mean, there's things I can do, but none of them sort of shouted out and screamed at me, make a pendant, whereas her top that she wears made me think that could work really well. That could be a really, really nice design. So I've got a few of my prototype ones that I was making while I was figuring out what to do, which didn't all work brilliantly, I have to say. I keep selling them, so I haven't really got any of the good ones to show you because they go quite quickly, which is good. But yeah, the idea for anyone who doesn't know what her outfit is, she has a t-shirt which is blue with kind of basically rainbow stripes across it, and she's also got a slightly sort of burgundy purple version. So I've experimented with trying to do both, and that's actually, I nearly wore one of them this evening, so that's one of my earlier ones. So it's basically,
that's really pretty, isn't it?
It's nice, isn't it? And that one, it's probably fine, but I kind of count that as a reject because it didn't quite come out how I wanted it to. But somebody might want it one day, and I sort of do them in slightly different shapes as well, just to sort of see. Like I say, these are very early ones, and the lines went a bit wobbly before I worked out how to do it properly. But yeah, it's a nice. Oh, I like this one actually. So this one I did on a white background. So there's the blue on a white background.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to show glass on a screen. It just because it's so shiny, you just get all the reflections. It's an absolute nightmare to photograph your products when you do glass. But so this is one of the few things that I kind of put a little bit of thought into. Like I say, I am now planning more things, and I've got a few more kind of projects on the go, which are a lot more designed. But when I started out, it was much more organic. That was one of the first things I did that had a bit of a plan behind it, and I've now got under development. I have got some other Doctor Who things. I'm going to Classic Who. So
exclusive.
I've got a Tom Baker themed one on the go. So once I've got that nailed, that will get released as well. So it's and it was really just stemmed from being a nerd and just thinking I want to make Doctor Who stuff. So I'm sure there'll be more things that I do in that line, and it seems quite a popular thing. It's a bit niche, but there's a lot of people in that niche. So
yeah, well there are so many people who remember Doctor Who. I mean, I remember Doctor Who from when I was a kid. And and my mum and dad remember Doctor Who from when they were kids, so it's been going on.
It's apart from that sort of brief time where it wasn't on air, so there is a sort of generation of kids that didn't have a doctor. But most of us, my first Doctor was Tom Baker. I remember him regenerating into Peter Davison.
I can't remember who mine was. It was a younger guy with the really curly hair.
Oh, that'd be Colin Baker.
I don't know, but most of them were quite old, and
they were, so they gradually sort of got a bit younger as you go along. I think started off quite old, because the first really young one, we are completely digressing, but the first really young one was after Tom Baker was Peter Davison. He was quite young and quite dishy.
So what else inspires you then as an artist?
Colour, particularly working with glass, is the thing really. It's I'm never quite, or not always quite sort of sure what I'm going to do when I sort of set out for a morning of glass making. I don't necessarily always have a plan. Sometimes I have a plan, but often I don't, and I just look at what I've got. So I look at my pots of crushed glass, and I'm collecting lots of colours of that. So I'm gradually getting a really big range of it. Or look at my little drawers that've got all my sort of sheet glass in, and just sort of kind of look at it and just think, what colours do I fancy playing with today, and what combinations. I think that's the thing I like to do is kind of look at what colours work with each other. So actually I'll show you this one as well. Hasn't got a bail on it yet, so it's not quite a pendant, but this is it doesn't come up, it's so hard to show you. So this one has got a base of it was all made of crushed glass. So the base is a sort of slightly sparkly dark blue, and it's got on top it's got a kind of a fuchsia pink and a little bit of blue, some turquoisey stuff, and then it's got this is not going to work because it's not dark enough, but it's got a magic ingredient. So it's also got some little swirls of glow in the dark. So I'm going to have to figure out how to video these so that you can see. So those kind of swirly bits there under the blue have little bits of glow in the dark. Well, it does kind of work, but it's not going to show on. I need to do a Zoom call in the dark so I can show it off.
Yeah.
But that's something.
Around it or something.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to do that. I think that's yeah, because they look so cute. So they charge up in the sunshine, and then you come in, and it'd be great for a night out. You'd be out in the daylight, and then you go into a sort of dimly lit pub, because it doesn't have to be properly dark, it just has to be dim. And then suddenly people go, oh, what's going on? Your pendant's glowing, or go to a nightclub or something. Not that I would. My nightclub days are long since gone. But that's a really nice one. So I'm experimenting a lot with the two different types of crushed glass that I use, which is one is an opalescent one, the other's a translucent or transparent one. And I'm sort of experimenting with how to use them together. So quite often I end up with, annoyingly, they're all upstairs. The ones that I was just thinking I should show you. But one of the things I like to do, no, I haven't got any of those. I like to sort of look at or try and get it so that you can almost see the opalescent glass kind of suspended, I suppose, in the transparent glass. It's a little bit like little solid pieces in jelly or something, because it just creates a really, really interesting effect. So I think it's just looking at textures and colours, and I do quite like this one. How the sort of two colours that are kind of, in this case, similar, two different versions of blue, or in this one, this was a blue and a purple, just kind of experimenting with that, and just seeing how it works with chunkier bits of glass and with translucent glass, and just playing really, and also just kind of nature. I mean, I don't think any of my things particularly scream nature at you, but a lot of the time I'm sort of out and about seeing plants and things, and just thinking, wow, that is such a vibrant purple on that flower, and how amazing it looks with the blue sky behind it and the green grass and whatever. So I'm taking photos a lot, and kind of thinking, well, that can kind of inspire me when I'm sort of then thinking, well, what colours do I want to play with? So the thing I come up with isn't necessarily going to reference this beautiful purple flower, but the colours might have some kind of bearing on it. And I saw a friend of mine. It was her first year anniversary of her wedding, and she was posting some pictures from her wedding, and she had a beautiful colour scheme, and she had this amazing bouquet with just really, really vibrant flowers, and it had lovely, really bright green stalks, and it had, I think, an orange bow and beautiful red flowers and purple flowers and yellow flowers, and it just totally just made me think, I need to make something. So I sort of said, would you mind if I make something kind of inspired by your bouquet? And she's like, oh, that'd be lovely. Show me what you come up with. And I haven't quite finished it actually. It's but I sort of just started experimenting with those colours, and because it's lots of colours I wouldn't necessarily have put together myself, but they just look so vibrant and so amazing. And I suppose it's a bit rainbowy as well, just like really, really vibrant colours. So that things like that, I just sort of see things and just think, okay, I'll put that in my little folder on my phone of photographs that one day are going to inspire me into doing something.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So you said that you don't work solely in glass. You also have some other creative outlets.
I do, yeah. So, like I think I mentioned at the beginning, I started off doing picture framing and painting. I don't paint very often because I find it quite stressful, if I'm perfectly honest. Because I'll start a painting and I'll have a wonderful time doing it, and it's really rewarding, and I really enjoy it while I'm doing it. And then I get to a point where I have to stop because I have to eat, or I have to feed my child, or I have to go to work, or whatever it is I have to do. But then I've lost the moment, and then I come back to it the next day or the next weekend or whenever, and I'm scared of doing it because I don't want to ruin it. So I've got so many paintings that I haven't finished because they make me stressed, because I'm like, oh, what if I ruin it? So this one that I did last summer was the first one for a long time that I've finished. And I was so proud of it, and it was amazing. But I think I've kind of decided I don't want to offer paint. I do portraits when I do paint, and I don't want to do it as a thing that I'm going to offer as a service. I did think about it for a while, but I think the pressure would be too much. So I want to just paint for me when I feel like it, if the mood takes me. But the picture framing, I really, really enjoy that, and it started picking up again since lockdown's kind of relaxed. I'm getting a lot of people. In fact, my neighbour threw a poster over the fence at me earlier and said, "Oh, Rach, can you frame that for me when you get a chance?" So I'm beginning to get a lot more business for that, and it's really nice, and it means there's a bit of downtime, sort of like if I'm making a frame, I've got to glue it together and let it set, so I can go and cut some glass, and while that's in the microwave I can come back and like paint the frame, and so I can kind of do the two things at the same time, which is quite nice. And when I've got my actual designated space and I can do it all in the one place and it's all set up, it would be amazing.
That'll be great.
So I'm trying really hard not to kind of get sucked into wanting to try too many other crafts, I think, but I'm sure I will.
I want to try all the crafts. I'm always like that. I'm always like, I want to try this, and I want to try that, and I want to try the other. I've got to sit on my hands and go, no.
It's just so tempting, isn't it? And I'm doing a little bit of branching out into trying to make silver stuff as well. I went on a wonderful course. In fact, I'm wearing my ring that I made. A lovely, beautiful, very simple but very lovely silver ring that I went on a course with Helen Dry from
Helen
fame. Her workshops are fantastic, a gorgeous studio, and her things are wonderful and beautiful. And I've also booked on a silver clay course with her, which was just before lockdown and had to be cancelled. So going to
she's doing them again.
She is, yeah. So I think I'm booked in for one later in the year. I'm going to have to double check actually. But yeah, so I was gutted to miss that. But that's the kind of next step, is I want to kind of expand my range really, and try and work on combining the glass with some silver clay work as well. So I'm thinking, that would be nice.
So is that your next step once?
I think so, yeah.
Once you've got your little boy back to school.
Yeah, fingers crossed.